What is up, everybody? Welcome to T2podcast episode 3. Today we are talking my favorite game of all time, Halo, and what it takes to make a true and classic Halo game. Bring one of my great friends from the community in, and just in general, Wes, aka Clutch in the Clutch, captain of Believe the Hype, the 2009 national champions for Halo 3. Also casting the HCS now, coached as well for some top teams. Wes, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on the show, Tom. I appreciate you getting me on here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation we're about to have about what's to come with Halo.
Yeah, I mean, what is to come? Halo Infinite, it got announced. We're really curious about what it's going to shape up. Is it going to be a classic Halo game? Is it going to be a prequel? We're not really quite sure. But Wes, go ahead and introduce yourself to some of the people that may not know you.
Okay, so I started playing competitive Halo at Dallas 2006 was going to be my first tournament. I kind of went there knowing that I wasn't going to win, knowing that I was kind of going there to see like the superstars, like almost like going to an NFL or an NBA game, going to see you, going to see Final Boss, going to see. I was a big Shook One Gaming fan, and all those players, and just like kind of see what it was in person and what it was like. And it was an unreal tournament. It changed my life forever. And then I started playing more, started getting a little bit better, started showing up with higher expectations at these tournaments, and became a pro in 2008 as soon as Halo 3 was released and had its first tournament. Ended up having some success in Halo 3, got a national championship out of it. And now find myself 10 years later on the analyst desk for MLG at the Halo 5 tournaments. And I mean, I'm just so blessed to be a part of the scene, part of the culture, and I can't thank everyone who's helped me along the way.
So let's talk about, Dallas 2006, right? First event is what you said. Now, that was Halo
Yes,
2
sir.
for people that don't remember that. And it's crazy to think about that back in the day. There was originally when MLG launched 13 tournaments. That's more than one a month that was happening. So there was always a tournament in your region that you can go and drive to, which was huge. And I think what's happened now is the prize pools have gotten so big that there's less tournaments. So you have to really pick and choose which kind of event that you can go to based on where your location is or what you can get off work or school or whatever it is that you may need to do to free up your time. But what got you into Halo, Wes? Was it the competitive atmosphere? Was it the game itself? What from, we know it was the competition, but what from the game itself drew you to specifically Halo 2, which was the first game that you went to a tournament for?
Yeah, so before I even owned an Xbox, I was playing high school basketball freshman year, had a guy on the team that invited me over to his house. He had an Xbox and he had Halo 2. And he had Xbox Live, and I played it there for the first time. I think I remember my first game, it was a Beaver Creek free-for-all, and I got 7th. And I didn't get last, and that's what I was shooting for at the time. And a competitive fire. I've always been such a competitive person throughout anything I do in life. I always want to be the best. And that 7th place in that Beaver Creek free for all, I mean, it drove me crazy to the point where I think I went out the next week, bought an Xbox, got an Xbox Live gamer tag, and I just started grinding from there. And it kind of, as my life progressed and sports were not an option, I felt like competitive Halo and competitive video games took over that competitive nature for me and allowed me an avenue to be able to feed my competitive nature.
Yeah, and like express yourself basically through, through the game, which is, what it's all about, going in there and performing at your highest level. So getting in there and playing Halo 2, a lot of people kind of forget about this because how long ago it was, but Halo 2 really set it off for online multiplayer. Especially with the ranking system, the level 50s, having Bungie.net where you can go in there and see in your playlist who is the top 5. Not only that, really get detailed stats. And they really built up that community and forum. So it was just an obsession for a lot of people to go in there and constantly just get better and better and better. But first topic that I want to go into, because I think this is the most important topic, Wes, is when we talk about Halo, there's so many different things that got people into Halo, whether it was the story, the campaign, the multiplayer, whatever it is, the lore. Some people love the ragdoll effect. Some people love the balance of the weapons. There's so many different reasons that people can get into it. But for me, I really fell in love with the maps. I think that going back and playing Halo 1, which was the original game that I played, just playing CTF Blood Gulch, that was the first thing that we did up, getting with the LAN parties, going in there, ordering pizza late night. You know, I'm like 15, 16 years old, being able to go from these high school, you know, type of atmospheres to going and hanging out at these college dorms and, you know, plugging in from one dorm room into another dorm room and landing people, you know, in UCF over in Orlando. So that to me was the best part about it. And the best part about Halo 1 for me was the maps too. It was so simple. There were so many different things, the spawn system, how smooth it was, you know, and when you look at it, it started with red versus blue, right? That's what we had when we started Halo. It was red versus blue, and there was always a thing that red base can't be stronger than blue base, and blue base can't be stronger than red. And I think that's one of the things that we've really missed out. When you go and you look at a map like Blood Gulch, so simple, but blue base was on one side and red base was on the other side, and everything there was kind of in the middle for people to fight over.
Right. I think you're bringing up a good point as far as finding a balance of equality on each side of the map. That's something that we really don't see in the more recent Halos. You do have some maps that are symmetrical, but a even start on each side and making your team be forced to make a decision and prioritize what you want on the map. That's a big deal, and that's something that I loved about when I first became a pro in Halo 3. You got to make decisions like, on pit flag, are we going to send a guy through camo? Are we just going to ignore the overshield, or do we want to send two guys that side of the map? And that would completely change or throw off another team. There were so many different strategies you could throw in, so many different little nuances that you could get away with, and be innovative, be a game changer and throw the other team completely off. I mean, little things like that are the reasons I fell in love with Halo, and the ability to just change one thing that you thought the other team was going to like predict out of you and throw them completely for a loophole.
And one thing that I don't want people to get confused about is that this isn't about a pro gaming conversation. It's just an overall Halo conversation. Because I go back to a tweet that I had maybe about like 2 years ago that people were pretty upset about, where it was talking about sticking playing the Covenant for the new players. And that was just a joke that really got taken out of context. And it was actually pretty funny in my opinion. But this is, when we talk about how getting to a pro level, you start off as a novice no matter what. Everyone started playing, and like you said, you got 7th place in your first game. I come in and, you know, get whooped numerous times for a good 3 to 6 months before I started actually putting together my strategies in terms of the game. But I think that a lot of people will go and agree that a lot has been lost in translation from what's happened from when we originally got back to Halo. And I think a lot of that's just been taken kind of from other games, and a lot of different things have been trialed, and there's been a lot of errors that are happening. But to me, the biggest error is in a map like Eden, for example, in Halo 5, and you look at a game type like Strongholds, and you're playing on the red side, and before the changes of the game types came out, you got the overshield for free every single time on the red side. It was right there for you. That's a huge advantage. That shouldn't just happen randomly. You should have to fight over that. And it took a while for us to realize, okay, we got to move that overshield down towards bottom middle inside the pit and make this thing a little bit more fair. But you look at it again, red side and Plaza, when there's the overshield and Slayer, that's always a huge advantage for that side typically, until people about 6 months to a year later realize that they need to go and take that super fast route and just try to burn that overshield, or just try to do anything to stop them from getting it. Because when you're playing from the red side, you're already at a tournament the better team. You have the higher seed going in, and you're just getting fed these numerous advantages over and over and over again. So it worries me when you see something like that, because to me something like that is just so obvious, where it's like, this is the most powerful thing in the game right now, and you're just going to give it to a team for free. And I don't think that's really fair for anybody playing, except for the person getting the overshield. You kind of even get jealous that you don't get it on your team because that guy's getting it so freely.
Right. I think if you go back and you ask just about, I would say a large majority of the top past players what their favorite maps are. I mean, they're going to tell you pit. What your favorite game type is. It's narrow CTF. It's something that's symmetrical. You get a sniper on each team. You get that chance to make the play and be the guy for your team. And I mean, midship's one of people's favorite game types. That's why we've had it in 2 or 3, 4 Halos now. I mean, symmetrical maps have always been the way to go as far as evening things out between the red and blue. Because, like you said, the higher seed is normally the red team. And why are we giving the higher seed any advantage at this point? I mean, they already should be favorited in this series. Upsets happen, but having to strategize around an overshield guy like you're talking about on Eden is just unrealistic. It's virtually impossible. I mean, you're giving them reign of the first minute and a half of the map because of that. I agree with you.
You don't have to. Symmetrical maps work great for Halo, but asymmetrical maps have worked too in the past. So I look at a map like Lockout, for example, and that was a lot of people's favorite. You know, even Guardian, the rendition of that for Halo 3. But what happened there was, yes, there wasn't bases, there wasn't that red versus blue area, but there was still quadrants of the map basically that you had to hold. And you look at a map like even Construct and things like that. Yes, there's no definitive side. You can't go and necessarily play CTF on these maps, and that's why you never played a Lockout CTF or a Construct CTF in your life unless it was like some crazy, one-time game type, like a one flag or something like that. But these just worked well because there were certain areas that you needed to hold, and it was still very fair no matter where you necessarily spawned. You look at Lockout, and a lot of it comes down to just the weapon placement too, with the spawn system and the weapon placement and the abilities of the Spartan in whatever game that is. But if you spawn, say in Lockout, for example, over at the BR tower, that was an advantage typically because that's where you'd want to go and set up. But that didn't mean that you couldn't set up on the snipe side of the map because that's where the sniper rifle actually spawned. But another thing on the BR side was that the sword was down there. But yet it's a little risky to go down to the bottom of the map, grab that, and if anyone else was able to pick you off down there, you're pretty vulnerable, and then you're necessarily delivering the sword. So there's so many little things that come into that make it really competitive. And also one of the things is the safety of your spawn too. Is the spawn systems now, because of the abilities that have been added in, it's like you're pretty safe, but you're really necessarily forced to go and make a decision. Sometimes that decision is just running to the opposite side of the map, which can happen very quickly, and people don't really take account for that. So it makes it almost like kind of hard to watch, but more importantly hard to play, because like you feel like you're in complete control of the map, but all of a sudden like someone's grabbed your flag and then you're pretty much in a standoff. And that's why we see so many standoffs constantly happening in Halo 5. So there's so many things that play into this, Wes. Like, what do you think are some other important things?
I think the game speed entirely is what creates that. I think the ability to be across the map so quickly changes the entire aspect of how you're going to end up having to play Halo. I mean, if we were to take the abilities of these Spartans away, if you were to take Clamber, Sprint, any one of those, and that changes completely how people are going to be able to run around the map and how they're going to be able to influence your spawns and pressure your spawns that you haven't seen in other Halos. You see it in Halo 2 and Halo 3, like you knew where the other guy was going to be spawning, and you had to like basically predict where he was going to go from that spawn.
Right.
And now in Halo 5, I mean, you can be over his head in a split second, even though you killed him across the map. Because by the time he's up, I mean, that's 7 seconds that gave you sprint, thrust, climb, clamber, round pound, everything to get over there. I think
it's like the maps need to be bigger if there's going to be sprint in it. But
absolutely.
But then the thing is if that's the case, then there needs to be a weapon that can do that you feel really good about using long range. Because even in a battle, as far as like say like a Truth from Pink 3 on over to Car, it's like you're shooting your pistol and yeah, you're trying to get those good long range shots, but it doesn't feel the same as a midship window to window BR fight. It's just not that same type of length. And even then,
I think a lot of it. I'm sorry to cut you off. I think a lot of it has to do with the single shot pistol rather than the burst.
Right.
That burst to burst fight, it having to scope in and make sure you were going to hit those shots, because you couldn't unscope your BR in Halo 3 and expect to hit shots from Pink 3 to Car 3. You had to be zoomed in.
Right.
And if someone's shooting you, they're unzooming you, you're unzooming them. That little skill variance right there is something that separated really good players that had shots like Roy and Lunch, and someone that, unfortunately for me, I had to be on the wrong side of that a lot of the times.
Yeah, and the kill time comes right into play with that, the shield regeneration as well. You look at a game like Halo 1, and the kill time is so fast. And I think that unless you have the railgun or a sniper rifle or a rocket here in Halo 5 or, in the later Halos, you're really not going to be able to do much. But you would be able to pull off ridiculous, you could kill 4 people with 1 clip in your pistol if you were to hit 3 shots on every single person. So I think that the way that you're able to zoom in across the map and the firing rate of that, for me, that was a perfect, balance, because you have so many weapons constantly coming up in Halo 1 every 30 seconds to a minute, and so many power-ups that is what you could basically slow down for and reset. And it makes it so interesting. Basically, every single minute, something very important is happening. And even then, there's a lot of stuff building up to that minute that's constantly going on. And now we're having games that are lasting, 3 or 4 minutes if they snowball out of control. You're only seeing maybe 1 or 2 sniper rifles on the map, and it's become very, very repetitive. I think what's going on, and it's a little bit unfortunate because there are a couple of adjustments that can be made. We haven't seen necessarily any major updates that have come out from the game like we saw originally in Halo 2 when the patch was released. There was a huge change in that, but there was a couple of minor things here and there for Halo 5, but nothing super groundbreaking like reducing some of the auto aim from the sniper rifle, or some of the minor ability changes that I feel like could really go a long way and just make this just a little bit more competitive and all around, a better game. I'd really like to have, because you were on HCS Weekly last week, Wes. Appreciate you coming on for that. But what do you think of getting one of these Halo 5 pros that is kind of saying Halo 5 is one of the best games? Because it's hard to find someone like that right now out of any one of the pros.
And everybody's been playing this game for over 3 years now, and it's getting to that point where you get to that point in every game, I feel like, that we've had to play. Like, towards the end of Halo 3, we were ready for a new Halo, and by the end of the first year in Reach, we were ready for a new Halo. So it's gonna be pretty difficult to bring someone on that's gonna speak a lot of positivity. That being said, Halo 5 is a great game. I thought it was really interesting what you were just bringing up as far as the fact that Halo 5, in another way of what you were saying, is the most snowball Halo we've ever seen.
Next to Halo 1, yeah.
Right, because, I mean, you could be playing a Strongholds game, and if you don't win that first fight for Overshield, and Splice all of a sudden gets you all 4 dead, gets all 3 Strongholds, I mean, by the time the next Stronghold, or the time the next Overshield comes up, you could be down 80 points in a Stronghold, and that game's... Splice is just going to be picking you apart from that point. They're not going to have to play too solid of Halo to finish that game out. And that's why you see Splice and Tox going against each other in the finals, and they like 100-0 Splice in a Stronghold, and then the next game is a Stake in Slayer, and then the next game is a 3-0 in Flag. Like, all these games are blowout by blowout by blowout because it's so hard to regain control of anything when one of these top teams that knows what they're doing to a T, they can put you on your back foot, and you'll never have four people alive on your team for the rest of the game.
Well, a lot of times what it came down to was there's always that priority player on the map that you need to kill. And you have that a lot happening with the railgun and, say, like a game like Fathom or something like that. But your chances to actually get back in it and take that weapon out of that person's hand is very hard in Halo 5 compared to other games, and you're seeing that because of the skill of the players. And, you get a scatter shot, you get a railgun, you get a sniper rifle, you're going to dominate with it, especially if you're on these teams like Tox and Splice. And no doubt about it, Halo 5 is extremely competitive because we've talked about this before. The same teams are consistently winning. If it wasn't competitive, it'd be random every single time, where it would be like, okay, the 10th seeded team can come in and win a tournament. That never really happened in previous times. There was always a good idea of who was going to win the tournament, and a lot of times your online pretty reasonably transitioned on over to LAN, which is still the case. So, that's where it gets a little interesting when people are like, yeah, wait till LAN. It's like, yeah, wait till LAN. You're going to place maybe 2 or 3 placings better max, but like, you're not going to move up from like 8th to 1st just by, showing up at the tournament. That's just not how it works.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you always had those teams. I was a part of a couple of them, like ETH in 2009 or Warriors and Halo Reach. Like, we were doing very well online before this, like the season of 2009 started, when it was me, Cloud, Demon, and Cypher. I mean, we were trading games with you guys. We were trading games with TD when we would scrim, and that gave us a lot of confidence. And people were like, these guys have never done this at a tournament. And I mean, when we get to the tournament, I mean, we're going to start trading games with these top teams. It just
Right.
happens. Like, the difference between online and LAN is people like to blow that out of proportion, and I wouldn't say that it's that. It's more of the emotions of the individuals on the team.
And
Can
it's only
can
5
you
games too. Can you harness that for 5 games, basically, your
right?
5 best games?
Right. Anything can happen in a best of 5. I've always said that when I was either the favorite or the underdog. I mean, upsets happen, especially when there's 2 team Slayers thrown into it.
Right.
Because that's a whole discussion we could get on, to be honest. Is Slayer such a big part of Halo? And I'm not ever saying that they should remove it, but when you're playing to 50 kills, I mean, we've seen it. I've seen it way too many times to where a team that has no business being in a series wins that game too.
Right.
That Team Slayer somehow manages to win an objective, and now they're playing a coin toss of a Amp Slayer for game 5 or something, and anything can happen if you can just get on a little bit of a hot run.
Yeah. And it adds that little bit of a random factor in there, which, isn't that bad. If that's the most random thing in there, then that's okay. But Amp Slayer probably wasn't the best game type, so if it was coming down to like a Guardian Slayer or something like that, it'd be a
Like
lot
a
more interesting. Or a
Construct Slayer.
Construct Slayer, yeah. So that's why it comes down to maps and game types. I mean, that's the most important thing. That's, in my opinion, where you start your planning and you say, hey, where are we going to go around this? Let's start with talking about, again, the abilities, the spawns, and what these maps are going to look like. Are they going to be symmetrical? Are they going to be asymmetrical? How many are we going to come out with? How many of them are going to be competitive? How many of them are going to be big team? I guarantee all these conversations are happening. I'm just happy to be a part of it. So going back to other things that I feel like are missing are, teleporters and lifts. We talk about construct. We talk about, lockout, even narrows. All of those things were fun. Nothing. It was great hitting the man cannon and going for no scopes and, going up Guardian and trying, or even in midship, hitting that lift and knowing you were at a disadvantage and trying to get that 4-shot on somebody, or, on the opposite end of that, if someone kills you while they're going up the lift, you feel a little bit embarrassed. So teleporters, for example, in Chill Out in Halo 1, you could do a lot with these teleporters. I mean, there was a couple of them. You had the teleport going into camo room, and then you had the teleport going into shotgun room. And then you had the teleporter in Battle in Beaver Creek as well. So it creates an entire dynamic of this game where you can go through and instantly just start adding pressure in another area of the map. But it's also very risky to go in because you can block these teleporters and you can also just bait these teleporter areas in general. But I miss them. And I think that it's something that I'd really love to see implemented going forward.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not sure how effective it would be with all these abilities that we have, but if we go back to just basic old school Halo where there are no sprint, no thrust and whatnot, and you have these lifts that give you the ability to get to a position of power without, I mean, you're risking everything by blindly lifting up something that you have no idea what's at the top. But at the same time, the other team is forced to be so disciplined in watching these lifts that even if a split second passes and they weren't watching the lift, that gives an opening for the team to just retake control. I really love that ability or that aspect of forcing the other team to be so disciplined to a T to, if they're not, then they risk losing the entire setup they just worked to get.
And you really like being in that position on both ends of it. You really love being on the top where you're like, all right, well, I'm watching this portal and I got rockets just sitting here and, they have to come to me. But on the other end, it's like, all right, well, we know the rocket guy's sitting there. What else can we do? And then the strategy starts to come into it. And you look at a map like Construct where you have 3 different lifts. You can go up the sword area, but there's only so many spots that you can watch. And in Construct, if you're smart and you have like a guy in sword, for example, watching blue ramp and watching the sword legs and both of the lifts, then you have a guy like on both of the streets. Both those guys can still watch both lifts. So you literally have 3 people watching 2 lifts in every single angle covered. And then you have the guy in back gold watching rockets. But realistically, it's 4-on-4. And that guy back gold is pretty far. And there's these guys in sword and these guys in the lifts. They could have some miscommunication, or we could send 4 guys here or 3 guys here and then 1 guy late. And right now there's not really much going on with that because everything's just like so fast paced and you don't really have much time. Again, strongholds has become much more of like a ring around the rosy in certain game types like Rig compared to like a Plaza where it's really locked down, spawn trap people, really push for that triple cap if you want it, but there's still a lot really just taking place that makes it a little difficult to understand. I mean, not to understand, but to a normal viewer to keep track of.
I think the biggest difference is just like we were saying earlier, is the pace. The map control isn't really about holding a setup anymore in Halo 5. It's more of the ability to continuously pressure your opponent, the ability to make sure that they never have 4 alive, to always keep 1 dead. And if the other team is playing with 1 dead, the game's over because it's a 4-on-3. I mean, like, it's just basic. That's just basic math at that point, because they're pressuring you so much to where you guys can't even like stall, because no matter where you're spawning, they're flying at you. They're applying pressure. They're going to get 1 kill, and that's all that matters to be able to slow down any chance of regaining control that you have. In Halo 3, you used to be able to all spawn basement after the team had complete top control, and you used to be like, all right, you used to have setup breaks, because you'd be like, all right, we're going to send a guy back gold, and then we're going to send a guy at swordweg, and 2 of us are lifting up open as soon as the guy back gold playing.
Now a lot of it's random, honestly, in terms of like, all right, well, we know what we got to do, but we're just hoping for the best in this type of situation.
See, like, I feel in Halo 5, with thrust, sprint, and all this, you would see players on a map like Construct, they'd kill you all up top, and then they would soar down to the bottom and try and catch you spawning just 2 people down there or something and try and spawn kill you. But you would be that's unheard of back in the day in Halo 3, because if you drop to the bottom to kill me in basement, I'd be like, all right, I'm spawning sword anyways. I don't even care about that death. Like,
yeah, exactly.
But
next thing you know, someone's already in your face, and that's one of the things is you shouldn't really have to be forced to make it as yes, you want to already know what you're going to do before you spawn, no matter what. But it shouldn't be so chaotic to a point where you are basically either just having to turtle or having to like run away to the other side of the map. And a lot of times I personally would prefer to like fight out of it. And a lot of times you feel like you really can't do anything because you're getting snowballed so hard. Again, it feels really good to snowball. It feels really good to be on the receiving end, but I've never seen anything like it where one team snowballs one game type and then all of a sudden the next map, they just completely get wrecked and snowballed again. So to me, that's where something is kind of missing. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is. But another thing that is old school that I really enjoyed, and we've seen it in Halo 5, and I'm really glad that they pay attention to this, is the Halo 1 Combat Evolved medals. What really comes down to is little signs on the map, discovering things on the map that took a really long time. And we've seen that with some of the places that you can get up, some of the thrust slides that you can do in Halo 5. That's the type of stuff that if we're going to go that route, we need more of that. We need more of that crazy shit is basically what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to go and hit that man cannon and if in Halo 3, and if you're going to have thrust, then you're going to man cannon and then thrust over to top center. And if that's how the game's going to be, make it like that. Make it so you can get into all these crazy spots. Make it so you're bouncing and hitting lifts, and make it almost like a Fortnite type of thing where you're pulling off these crazy plays at really ridiculous high skill levels. And people love to watch them because no one, loves it more than me to see like Shotzi pull off a new jump and then, 2 years down the road and slide up on regret when no one really knew about that front slide jump. That's the type of stuff that we need more, but not just for jumps, for grenade tactics and tricks. You want to feel like the game's new again when that type of stuff happens.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that because I was actually watching Renegade stream either last night or the night before. And he was just kind of talking to his chat, and he said something along the lines of, I'm really just excited for a new Halo to come out so I can start learning jumps and start learning new nuances about the game. And I love when I see Shotzi spring jump into a place where I had no idea you could even spring jump. And I mean, you watch people like Frosty, like Shotzi, like Renegades, all these players that know so much more about the game than just the average viewer or even someone that's put hours and hours into the game watching and playing like myself. I learn something every time I watch these players play. But that being said, I completely agree with you. Like, that needs to be taken to a whole new level. We need harder jumps that you can't just averagely clamber to. You have to earn that jump to get up there. And for example, on Plaza, you have that top yellow jump, which isn't a give me by any means. Like, you can miss that jump. I see pros miss it all the time, but like stuff like that gives you an opportunity to get to a power position, but you have to hit the jump. kind of like as simple as it is on lockout, that jump from top middle to S3. I mean, like if you weren't paying attention, you were doing that lazily, you could
Yeah.
you could hit your toes on
Or
the edge of it and
Guardian, the
fall off the
Macchio
map.
jump from bottom middle to going up to S2. You have the bottom gold jump up there as well. You have the jump also on the lift towards the snipe side that you can go up around the glass and jump off behind in there. You saw tons of stuff in Halo 5 and Fathom. But again, some of these things are just too easily accessible. So making it more difficult, like you said, the one over in yellow in Plaza, when you first started playing the game, you probably missed it, 5, 6 times, and then you started to you're like, all right, I got to auto stabilize at the very top of this. So if there are going to be these type of abilities in there, whether you like it or not, it's like, yes, let's bump it up and put these things on steroids basically and make some stuff really, really crazy, off the wall type stuff. That's personally what I would like to see if that's the route that it's going to go. I would like to see both options really. I would like to see a full game. If not, make it more of a classic game. That's what I'd like to see too. But if we are going to go that route, make it that type of insane stuff. So yeah, and you look at Halo 1, for example, just jumping into that game was hard. It was heavy. The gravity level was absolutely insane. So in Halo 2, you dealt with, like, you may have overjumped things or you floated too much or whatever it was. But something as simple as jumping up onto the side of the base in Battle Creek in Halo 1 is kind of difficult. You actually have to crouch in order to make that jump. So those are the type of things that need to continue to be implemented for us to really just enjoy the maps overall. Little hidden grenade, tactics, throwing in the teleporters, all that stuff to me screams Halo, and it's really kind of fallen down just a little bit. And again, you talked about shield regenerations earlier too, Wes. What do you think of the current state of shield regenerations? What was your favorite Halo for shield regenerations? Because I miss, for example, Halo 1 with the health pack system. Any type of health pack system for me, I thought that was really entertaining. That if you had, yellow shields in Halo 1, if you got hit with a grenade based on where that grenade was going to be, that you were definitely toast and you wanted to go and find that health pack. And then again, when you see the health packs missing, that gives you intel. It's like you're hunting for somebody and you just see little tracks.
Yeah, it's crazy to me how big of a difference all of the shield variants are, because I really didn't notice it playing Halo 5 for so long. But then I went back and I started playing MCC before this Insider came out, and it literally felt like it took a year before my shields would come back. And so many times I would like push before I was full health and I'd be punished immediately for it. And in Halo 5, you basically get your shield back in a couple seconds. It feels. I mean, it doesn't take long at all, especially not with your abilities and your like with thrust and everything that you can get around walls and whatnot, and the fact that you can get your shields back. It's like you're not getting punished enough for
being out of
taking
position.
damage.
Yeah,
Yes, for
I
taking
think
damage.
that's probably the most frustrating thing for a new player to go and play a game like Halo 5 is, or just in general when a kill time is too long. You go and you see somebody skedaddle and get out of the way, and it's like, well, that guy I feel like was really out of position, yet they're going to go and live one shot, sit behind this wall, and then also another thing that is kind of weird is the grenades and the way that they bounce seems to be a little inconsistent. That can't happen. Everything needs to be a really smooth surface. You want to feel good about certain grenades, and also, certain grenade tricks like the what was it, the Insisplode in Halo 3. We can go back and say like the double melee in Halo 1 involved a grenade as well. What was it, the LXX for when you were off host in Halo 2, you could throw a grenade and backpack reload as well. So there was a lot of things basically in each single game that involved grenades somehow. Also being able to throw grenades that actually blow through walls in certain instances in places that are really annoying to hide, like the Eli and midship. You could go and learn that grenade. People found that out maybe a year or two down the road. In midship, you could throw the grenade on top of the pink roof and it would actually explode through the corner.
Right, the guy pink 3.
Yeah, so certain things like that, I would love to see. Again, what you're talking about is people getting punished for being out of position, and I don't think that's currently happening enough. I believe that's definitely true.
Yeah, it's weird the way technology is progressing and these graphics that we have and these details that we're able to put into games. It's almost the deficit of the quality of the gameplay that we're playing, because everything's such a rugged surface. Like if you throw a grenade off something, it could get stuck in the crack, or it could bounce off. It could bounce off the most minute detail in the wall. and it comes back in your face. And you don't see that as far as Halo 1 and Halo 2
Or
is
like a rocket
concerned.
being eaten by the stairs.
Exactly. Like, or going through the stairs. Like,
Right.
how ridiculous is that? But and that changes the complete outcome of the game, and it's not something that you can really affect. I mean, as a designer of a game, I wouldn't have any idea how that goes into it. But if you could make just the surface result, it can look great, but can it just result in like a flat surface or something whatnot is are questions that I would have to have. Because when I throw a grenade off of a ramp, I want it to bounce off the ramp and go forward, not stick into the ramp itself, or just various examples.
Yeah, and you see that happening all the time, and it started really in Halo 3 actually with Construct, where you realize like the details of throwing something in the open. It was like, oh, actually, if it does bounce off that little lip right there, it's gonna bounce back at me. But if it's gonna be like that, it needs to be consistent throughout all of
Right.
those little cracks, and that's the problem is you don't see that, and you need to make sure that at a high level that you don't want to have something catastrophic happen and all of a sudden
Exactly.
you're
That
like, oh well, we got to update that. So I mean, no, these creating these games is extremely difficult, and like you said, with the way technology is progressing, it makes it just even more difficult. But there isn't anything really wrong in my opinion with just the way you go and look at Halo 1 and the way that the maps look and stuff like that. Really, it's the quality of the videos from back then where it's just like not at the full 1080. And now that we look at the way that it's been remastered on MCC, everything really looks extremely clean. Like they did such a great job with that. I know they're still tweaking some things here and there, but we were having this conversation on the way up. I haven't played H2A, but I'm sure H2A is kicking ass. And then Halo 1 feels absolutely amazing. So I still have to play some more Halo 2 and Halo 3 and go through that. But it's great to see them take everything, upgrade the graphics, then you go and you plan everything. And especially with a 360 controller, it's like, or with an Xbox One controller, it's like, oh, I'm used to having the 360 controller or the original Xbox controller, and this is actually working right now. So I've been enjoying it. I'm glad to see that that's like a whole new initiative that they're taking, and it makes me wonder where Halo Infinite's going, because if they're, saying, all right, we're going to go and run this Halo 3 tournament that's happening. We'll run the 2v2 DreamHack tournament that's happening in Atlanta. You see the amount of retweets and the likes on that. You see the amount of big streamers coming back and playing Halo 3, the amount of people that loved playing Halo Online, which was a Halo 2 game. And people are really crying for Halo Infinite to be something like that classic game. So what do you think, Wes, based on the stuff that you saw that was launched, the videos, the helmet being held at the very end, which looks like a little bit of a classic artwork? I think that we could be going that way.
I really hope so. Just as a Halo fanboy myself, growing up, I mean, from when I can remember, that's what I know Halo to be, and that's some of the most fun. And I've spent so much time doing it, and I would look forward to something like that. I hope they go back to just the basics. Man, would it be something special to see? They could. I think it's up in the air right now. I haven't heard one or the other. That being said, like you said, it seems like they're getting so much good feedback
Mm.
for that basic Halo gameplay that we all want. I say we all, and I mean like the old generation. And don't get me wrong, there's a generation that loves this Halo 5 style of games.
Just
But I
because
think
Halo's a
there's a
great
five.
game in general. I mean, it's just that we were spoiled. I literally feel like we were spoiled, and maybe it's. I don't think it's nostalgia. I really believe in the game just being the. It's. I think it's the best game. Halo 1 to me was the best game of all time, and it's really hard to. It's just like a movie. When you go and release that amazing movie, it's really hard to live up with that prequel, with that sequel, or whatever it is that comes down the road. It's like Star Wars. Like, how do you beat Star Wars?
Right. I mean, I go right now and I play I go play MCC and I play Halo 3, and it's kind of the same factor I assume Halo 1 is for you. I mean, that's a game that I'd played more than any other game in my entire life and will play in my entire life. I promise you that. I know everything there is to know about Halo 3, I feel like. As far as the MLG settings, the competitive play, it's just so fun to me. I mean, I could play that 20 years from now and have the same feelings that it brought me back in the day when I first played it for the first time. I think I think it's gonna happen. I'm excited. I really am to see where they go with it.
Another important point to bring up is the way that the overshield and the camouflage and any potential other power-ups that may be introduced, the way that they function. And right now you currently have that chest system where you go and you press that, put it in your chest. Not really a big fan of that. I loved the feeling of going out there, hitting that camo, going quick camo instantly, like a little glitch like that in Halo 1, shooting your pistol and switching over to your assault rifle, or just a little shot of a shotgun, shot of assault rifle, or shot of a plasma rifle, if you guys didn't know, will instantly put you into camouflage. In a majority of the games, except I think in Halo 3, where you had to wait for your shield to come back before you go and pick that overshield up. But here's the thing is, that was buns anyway. It was a custom power-up. It was a custom overshield that we had to create ourselves. It wasn't the original overshield. I miss that actual overshield, that actual camouflage. Make it look cool. Put some design into it. And, you know, like you have that little, the overshield, the camouflage, like it looks okay, but it could look a lot cooler. It seems to me like it was just like a little afterthought, you know, like it wasn't
Right.
an actual thing. It
See
reminds
what
me
you're
of,
going.
it reminds me of the Spartan, remember picking up like the thrust in Halo Reach, for example?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That
Like
it
a
looks
bubble
the
shield
same.
or something.
Yeah, it looks the same as that basically. Like make it what it is. Make it an actual camouflage. Make it an actual power up. And then obviously the placement of where those things are extremely important.
Right. I mean, like we were saying earlier, they shouldn't be given. They should be earned. Um, on any map in any competitive form that we're going to talk about. Yeah, I like where your head's at as far as the visuals are concerned, because the overshield for Halo 5 is definitely something we haven't seen, something you have to calculate that second and a half of you pumping it into your chest and activating into account when you're trying to play for it. And a lot of these teams are just saying, screw it, we'll just desperate and burn it, and then we'll play the game from there, because
It's boring
a
that
better
way though. It's just
it's a
boring.
better. I agree.
It's
It's a
like
better
taking the sniper
result,
rifle and just throwing it off.
right? Which you see some top players do, which is definitely not. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of watching a player, like when there's one snipe on a map. Uh, the fans need something to look forward to entertain.
Yeah.
And like, what better than the power weapons? You
never catch me. You never catch me in Halo 3. You know, backstage wasting ammo because I knew it was going to be too powerful or something like that for the other team to go and grab, and that's just a little scary. You know, that's just again, it's a nod to how good everybody is, but also it's a nod to how easy it is.
Yeah, I mean, when you have players like Frosty and Shotzi that don't ever scope in with the thing, and they can hit long range no scopes like it's nothing, and just like literally 180 no scope you in the head and kill your entire team. I understand the factor of having to waste ammo. I mean, I'm all for that competitive part of your idea of how you want to play it. But that being said, the snipe does feel way too easy. I mean, I can get on Halo 5 right now and do pretty well with the sniper, and I have no business doing that right now with how good I think I am at a first-person shooter.
It should be the most difficult thing in the game, and unfortunately, it's probably the easiest weapon to use once people realize that you don't have to try as hard with it. And that's the thing, is it needs to be a ton of skill, and there's just other things too in there that could be played with. I mean, people are going to call me crazy for this, but I really enjoyed using the Covenant sniper rifle. I found that thing tons of fun to shoot. Just two really quick headshots. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
I actually grew up on Big Team Battle before I ever even had any business playing in MLG settings. That's where I was like born and raised, was like the big team scene, and I was like the guy when it came to sniping, like on in Halo 2. So I mean, I use that beam rifle on Headlong all the time, and I mean, like, just that different variation of a similar gun, but you can do so much damage. But it does take the same level of skill as the human sniper or whatnot. But it's just a little different. You could shoot it a little bit faster. It all kind of made sense. It all was fun to use. Like every single gun.
It's Halo. It's Spartan and Covenant, man. I love it. You know, there's a certain class of weapons for each person, or for each you know, side of the story.
Yeah, they do need to pick up the Covenant scene again. I hope that's what Halo Infinite's going. You don't really see the Covenant being introduced, and to the actual campaign fans out there, to the actual Halo diehard Halo storyline fans, I mean, that's something that they're missing in the competitive scene as well, is all these different alien based guns. Like
Mhm.
right now we're just using tons of human like
Yeah, we have like the green
technology
guns still
guns.
around. Yeah, it's all basically the marine guns, and you have what I'm not sure if the scatter shot's a Covenant weapon or not, but I look at it like if the shotgun was the normal version, then you have the Covenant version, which would be probably the scatter shot, and I think that is true. But that's what again I love that aspect of Halo. It plays into the lore of Halo, the nostalgia of Halo, and I think that between all these points that we've brought up, hopefully a lot of people agree with these and they want to see these again.
Yeah, I think the majority of people I know, all they can talk about is the past Halos and how they love them and how they look forward to hopefully seeing something like that. I'm like I said, I know that there's an entire community out there that loves Halo 5, and I mean I enjoy watching Halo 5 as much as anybody. I mean it's a great game in its own, but when we talk about what's next to come, I think I can speak for a lot of people that I know that say we want something in the middle, something futuristic, obviously. Like we want something new, but at the same time, let's bring it back to what everyone enjoyed, the little things that everyone enjoyed.
Exactly. I think this is a good time, Wes, to ask the community what they want to see. So if you're watching this video, comment down below in the YouTube video. Hit us up on Twitter. You see my Twitter right there. You see Wes's as well, at T2podcast. You can also tweet us at UGC Events. Let us know what you love about Halo, what you want to see. If you agree with us, disagree with us, maybe you agree with some of it, maybe you disagree with some, maybe you disagree with all of it. Who knows? We don't really know here. It's going to be interesting to see what everybody thinks. But one thing is for sure, everybody definitely loves Halo. That's most likely watching this. We all hope that Halo Infinite kicks ass. So Wes, thanks for joining me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely squared. Good
Any
talking to
shout
you.
any shout outs you want to give real quick before we go?
Um, yeah. Let's see. I'll give a shout out to my mom. I'm gonna have her watch this. I know she always loves any opportunity that I get on a camera or something. It trips her out. So shout out to my mom. Love you.
All right. All right, we'll give some mama love over here. Shout out to Mama Squared as well, most likely watching this. All right, guys, this is T2 Podcast. Clutch is the premier guest here. We were talking Halo. Episode 3 is a wrap. We'll see you next time.